بالله الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Uh, this will be our third lesson today, and before we start our lesson, we'd just like to review what we did in what we did last week. So, number one, last week we introduced the course, and we defined what ethic is and what business ethic is. We also talked about the difference between law, ethics, and morality. And we also talked in detail about the importance of business ethics and the principles of business ethics. Then last week, we also covered the models, the ethical models, and we covered around 6 models, and we talked in detail about the concepts behind those theories. And we said that those theories basically can help you as a manager or you as an individual when you want to make a decision. Now, in our lesson today, we shall be talking about ethical decision making and ethical dilemma. So we shall be discussing these two elements in our lesson today. Okay, as we continue, so what are the lesson objectives today? By the end of this lesson, you should be able to, number one, define the concept of ethical decision making in a business context. Number two, explain key ethical decision making models used in organizations. Number three, discuss the main factors influencing ethical decision making. Four, define what an ethical dilemma is and understand its nature. Then number five, identify and illustrate examples of ethical dilemmas in business. Then lastly, describe effective approaches to resolve ethical dilemmas. So in a nutshell, these are the objectives of our lesson today. So let us start our lesson. So as usual, when you're starting our lesson, we always start with definitions. So number one, what do we mean by ethical decision making? So ethical decision making is the process of evaluating and choosing among alternatives in a manner consistent with ethical principles. It involves analyzing moral dilemmas, assessing potential consequences, and making choices aligned with one's values, organizational ethics, and social responsibility. It is not just about what is legally right, but what is morally right. So that is the definition of what? Of ethical decision making. So number one, it is a process, here Amalia. It is the process of doing what? Takim, evaluating and choosing among alternatives. As a manager, if you're doing your business, every day you have to make decisions. And when you're making these decisions, you need to choose from many options, option A, option B, option C. So when you are choosing or when you want to choose, you have to ensure that it should be in a manner that is consistent with ethical principle. That is, it should not only be legal, but it should also be morally right. Now, legally right versus morally right. What do we mean by these two things? So what is the meaning of legally right? So ethical behavior goes beyond merely following laws and regulations. So something may be legal, allowed by law, but still be morally wrong. That is unethical because it violates principle of fairness, honesty, integrity, or human welfare. So not everything that is legal is morally right. Okay, for example, in America, you have you have the LGBT, the homosexuality, all those things are allowed in America legally, but they are not morally right. They are unethical. So in some countries, people are legally, if you are 18 years of age, you are allowed to do what? You can be allowed to smoke cigarette or do what? Or even drink alcohol, al-khamr. So yes, it is legal in those countries, but it is morally wrong. So not everything that is legal is morally right. So law sets the minimum standard of behavior required by society. Ethics sets higher standards based on values like honesty, respect, compassion, and justice. Did you get it? So that is it. So the law just sets the minimum, what we need to do. But ethics is now a high standard. So the summary of this is that while the law tells us what we must do, ethics tells us what we should do. So the law will tell us you must do this. If you don't do it, then there will be consequences. But ethics, when you're talking about ethics, it is something that is internal. Nobody is forcing you. It is something that is natural. So when you're seeing something, you can just say, wow, this thing is wrong. So fitrian. So when you're talking about ethics, it's something that is fitrian. So fitrian, you just know that this thing is wrong. Now, what is the difference between legal and ethical? Are they the same or they're different? So in definition, number one, when something is legally right, it means it complies with written law and regulation. For example, in Somali, you have the constitution, and all the people there in Somali, they have to follow the rules, the laws and regulations. But on the flip side, the morally, ethically right aligns with moral principle and social values. It's something that is fitrian. Those are the behaviors that are accepted by the society. Number two, the focus. So when something is legally right, there is the element of external rules. It is not coming from you. The government is enforcing it, and there is a penalty. For example, the traffic law. If you don't follow the traffic law, then you're going to pay some money. But in the other side, it is an inner conscience and moral duty. So it is something that is fitrian, something that is dakhili. Nobody is forcing you to do it. Then the enforcement. When something is legally right, then it is enforced by government and courts. But when something is moral, it is by self and society. So anta shaksiyan munfaridan, you are the one who is doing it because you know it is right. Or sometimes the society is telling you, oh Muhammad, no, this is wrong. You are Muslim, you should not be doing it. Then the standard. The law, it sets the minimum acceptable behavior. That is al-had al-adna. While the morally, something that is moral is al-had al-a'la, ideal, the behavior that is expected from the world, from the society. Now look at this example when you're talking about ethical decision making. Look at this situation. There is a multinational company uses loopholes in tax law to avoid paying taxes. So they're just trying to maneuver around, not to pay the taxes. For example, they can be manipulating their financial statements. So the company is not breaking any law. It's not breaking any law. But it is unethical because it deprives the government of revenue needed for public welfare. So some companies, what they're basically saying here is that some companies, they know very well if their financial statements show that they have a lot of profit, then they will have to pay a lot of tax to the government. So some organization, they will manipulate the financial statement to show that they did not get a lot of profit. So they are not breaking any law, but it is morally, it is unethical, because they are depriving the government of getting a lot of taxes, which can be used to develop the country. So it's legally right, but morally wrong. Okay, another example is here. Employee layoffs for profits. Look at this situation. A company lays off employees to increase profits, even though it is already financially healthy. So, for example, you have the Habshil Bank. So, the Habshil banks decides to lay off. To lay off means to terminate the contract of some workers because they want to increase profit. Even though the Habshil is doing good, it is doing well, you know. So the company has the right to do what? The company has the right to terminate the employment, right? The company has the right to terminate employment. So nobody can tell the Habshil, hey, you should not terminate. No. So it's legal for them. But morally, it is questionable as it disregards employee loyalty and welfare. But it is not morally right, because what is going to happen to these workers who are going to lose their jobs? So yes, something they're doing is legal, but it is not moral. So the conclusion is that ethical managers will consider human impact, not just legality. If you are a manager, don't just consider the legality of your decision, but also consider the other part. Is it moral? Is it insania? Is it akhlaqiya? So that is what that is the essence of what? That is the essence of ethical decision making. Now, what is the importance of ethical decision making? That is why do you have to make a right ethical decision? Number one, it promotes trust and integrity in organizations. So when a company consistently makes ethical decisions, it earns the trust of the stakeholders. It earns the trust of your customers, employees, investors, and society. And this trust will create loyalty and long-term relationship. If your customers, they trust on you, it basically means that they will have good relationship with you. And when they have good relationship with you, this will translate to an increase in sales. And if you have a lot of money, it means that you can you can sustain your business. Number two, enhances repetition and stakeholder relationship. When you're talking of repetition, is sum'ah. If you are always making ethical decisions, then you will have a very good image, a positive image in the society, and the opposite is true. So a good reputation is a valuable, intangible asset. So good reputation, it's an asset, but you cannot touch it. But the name, when people are saying, wow, this bank is good, wow, this business, mashallah, they're good. So it's oral. They're just saying, they're just actually talking good about your business, and that is an asset. So ethical decision making promotes positive public image. You know, people are going to talk good. People are going to associate your business with positive things. While unethical behavior can cause lasting damage, there are many businesses that have failed, that have not been successful because of of bad publicity, negative publicity. Then it prevents legal and financial risks. So ethical decisions help ensure compliance with laws and regulations. So when you're making ethical decision, it basically means you are going to be in line with the policies and regulations, and this will reduce the risk of fines, lawsuits, and penalty. So ethics often serve as a what? It's as a preventive measure. before legal interventions become necessary. So ethical is, they normally say al-waqaya khayrun min al-ilaj. So that is the ethics itself as al-waqaya. It can prevent us from falling in big mess. Then number 4, supports long-term sustainability and corporate responsibility. So ethical companies may sacrifice short-term gains but achieve long-term growth through loyal customers, committed employees, and investor confidence. So ethical companies may sacrifice short-term gains. Okay, now in this short term, we are not going to get a lot of profit because of the ethical decisions that we are making. But of course, this ethical decision will help us to gain more customers in the long run. But there are some companies, they make an ethical decision. Yes, in the short run, they can earn profit, but in the long run, they are going to lose customers. Number 5, encourages a positive organizational culture. So ethical decisions by leaders set a moral tone that encourages honesty, fairness, and accountability at all levels of the organization. So if you are a leader and you are making ethical decision, it will be reflected in all the organization. It will be the culture, it will be the norm of the organization. So these are some of the importances of ethical decision making. Now, on to the next point. Now, what are the models of ethical decision making? Now, if you want to make an ethical decision, is there a formula? Is there some steps? Are there some steps? Are there some approaches? So basically speaking, there are very many approaches, or there are very many models of ethical decision making. But in our case here today, we shall only be covering 3. So the first one is it is called the 4-component model. The second one is the PLUS ethical decision making model. Then lastly, which is the most popular one, it is called the 6-step ethical decision making process. So these processes are very important, right? Because when you want to make any decision, you need to follow either of this model. So it acts like a map. It acts like a blueprint that is going to help you. Okay, now let's start with the first one. So the first one is called the 4-component model. And this 4-component model, it was established by Rests in 1986. So the model explains how individuals make ethical decisions from recognizing a moral problem to taking ethical actions. So it consists of 4 key components. And that is why it is called the 4-component model, because it has 4 things. So before you make any decision, you have to ask yourself these 4 things. You have to analyze these 4 things. So number 1 is moral awareness. So moral awareness means what? Recognize that a situation has an ethical dimension. You know, so the moral awareness is you realizing that these things requires you to act morally. Number 2, moral judgment. Deciding what is right or wrong. You have to decide what is right and what is wrong. Number 3, moral intention. Deciding to do what is right, to do. Then lastly, moral behavior, actually doing what is right. So number 1, moral awareness. You recognize that there is a situation that needs an ethical decision. Number 2, moral judgment. You have to decide what is right, what is wrong. ثم النية, moral intention, deciding to do what is right. Then lastly, actually doing what is right. Because sometimes you can decide to do what is right, but you don't actually do it. You know? So number one is the moral awareness. So when you're talking about the moral awareness, it is recognizing that a situation involves an ethical issue. Understanding that someone's right, fairness, or well-being are at stake. Look at this company example. A marketing executive realizes that a new advertisement might mislead customers by exaggerating product benefit. So a marketing manager realizes, ya jamaa, this marketing is not good. It is misleading. It is going to mislead our customers. So the employee, that is the manager, becomes morally aware that something is ethically wrong, even if it is legally allowed. So this manager, this manager actually realizes that, hey, this something is unethical, even if it is legally. Yes, we can. It is legal. We can just advertise our product, but it is misleading. Maybe we are saying that this product has 1, 2, and 3, but in real sense, it does not have 1, 2, and 3. It's only having 1. So the first thing is, that what you are doing or what you intend to do is not morally right. Then number 2 is moral judgment. Deciding what is right or wrong. That is evaluating different options using moral principles and values. So this manager has options. Option 1, run the misleading ad to increase the short-term sales. So the manager can decide, I don't care about ethics. I don't care about being right. We need money as a company. We need to advertise. We need to lie. We need to tell people that this product has 1, 2, and 3 because we will get more sales. Or option number 2, to modify the advertisement to reflect the truth. That is to uphold honesty. So here, the manager has to choose either, hey, let us continue doing the bad thing, or let us refine, or let us modify our initial advertisement to reflect good values. So after analyzing, they judge that honesty and transparency are ethically right, even if profits might drop. So this manager can decide, okay, transparency is something that is good, and that is what we are going to stick with, even if we are not going to get profit, but it is right. We are doing the right thing. Then moral intention, forming the intention or commitment to act ethically, even if it's difficult or costly. For example, the executive decide to speak to their manager and recommend revising the ad campaign. So they intend to act ethically despite pressure to meet sales target. So this marketing manager will go back to the boss, the CEO, and tell the boss, hey, listen, that advertisement is not good. We are lying to our customers. We are not being honest. Even if we want sales, then we need to do the right thing. And sometimes this can be very difficult. Going to talk to your manager and telling your manager, hey, you are wrong. We need to revise this thing. Some employees, they will just keep quiet. You cannot keep quiet. من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطيع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطيع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. So it is very clear when you see a munkar, it is all about changing it. It is wrong. Don't just keep quiet. Go to your manager and tell you, hey, this is wrong. We cannot do it. But unfortunately, in our companies, in the government, People are doing many things that are munkar or fasad, but you are there, you are keeping quiet. You don't know that you are going to be part of the problem. Now, then lastly is the moral behavior, actually acting on the moral intention. So implementing the ethical decision in real life. So here the executive successfully persuades management to modify the advertisement, ensuring it's truthful and compliant with ethical marketing standards. So the person not only knows what is right, but also does what is right. So في نهاية المطاف, you go and convince your manager, you go and convince the high management that we need to do the right thing. And you persuade them, you convince them, al-iqna, and they accept it. They say, hey, Muhammad, you know what? You are right. We are Muslims. We have our values. As-sidq is very important. So before you make any decision, you can use this model here. You can use the 4 models. So moral awareness, the moral judgment, the moral intention, then lastly, the moral behavior. So that is the first model. Okay, now this is just a summary of the model. So moral awareness, you recognize an ethical issue. Number 2, moral judgment, deciding what is right. Moral intention, deciding to act. Then lastly, moral behavior, taking ethical action. Actually doing what is right. And this is what integrity is all about. Now, on to the second model of decision making is called the plus ethical decision making model. So this model here helps managers check decisions against 4 key filters. So this is an acronym. So the P stands for policies, L, legal, U, universal, and S is what? Self. Now, before you make any decision, what do you ask yourself? You refer back to the policies of the company. So you ask yourself, is it consistent with organizational policy? I want to make this decision. But is it consistent? Is it what the company needs? Number 2, legal. Is it acceptable under the law? Number 3, universal. Does it conform to universal moral principle? Is it acceptable worldwide? Does it conform to universal moral principles? Then self. Does it satisfy my personal definition of right, good, and fair? Because all of us, we have our personal values. Everybody has a personal values. So there are some things that I value. There are some things that according to me, they're right. There are some things that are wrong. So at the end of the, after you make this decision, how do you feel? Do you feel happy? Do you feel guilty after making that decision? How do you feel? So these are the 4 things you ask yourself when you're making the decision. So for example, they're giving us a business example. A sales manager is offered an expensive gift by a supplier just before the company awards a new contract. Let's apply the model. So a sales manager, your supplier gives you a gift. So number 1, policy. Is it consistent with company policies? That is, so the company policies forbids accepting gifts from suppliers. So the company does not allow me to take gifts from suppliers. So I should not take the gift. I should tell the supplier, no, you are trying to influence me, you are trying to intimidate me, you are trying to bribe me. So the company policy says you should not accept any gift from an external person. Number two, legal. Is it acceptable under the law? So accepting such gifts could be seen as a bribe under anti-corruption laws. In some countries, when somebody gives you the gift, then it can be assumed that that is rushwa. It's a bribe. So under the law, it's not acceptable. Universal. Does it align with universal moral principles about honesty, fairness, integrity? So accepting the gift creates unfair advantage and conflicts of interest. So there is going to be some conflict of interest because you are going to give the supplier the contract or the tender, yet there are many suppliers. There can be 4 suppliers. But because this supplier gave you some gift, it's going to affect. So there's going to be a conflict of interest. Then lastly, you now, self. Does it satisfy my personal sense of right and fairness? Personally, it feels wrong and could harm my reputation. So it is not right. And it can affect my reputation if, for example, if, for example, the company knows or finds out after investigation that you are given the gift, they can terminate your contract, which can be very detrimental to your career. So this is the second model or the second approach. Now the last approach, which is the common one, it is called the 6-step ethical decision-making process. So number 1, recognize the ethical issue. Then number 2, gather facts, jam'il ma'lumat. Number 3, evaluate alternatives, taqshim al-bada'il. Number 4, make the decision, san el-qarar. Thumma implement the decision, tanfidh al-qarar. Thumma, lastly, is to reflect on the outcome. Tadabbur, what was the impact of this decision? Was it positive? Was it negative? So now here, look at this example. It's an example. It's an example of ethical decision making. We are going to use these 6 steps. Look at this situation. A university professor discovers that a group of students has copied large portions of their project report from the internet without proper citation. The professor must decide whether to fail the students, report them to the disciplinary committee, or give them a chance to correct their mistake. So as a teacher, I have realized that some students copied their assignment, their project from the internet. So what should I do? So I need to follow using the 6-step ethical decision making. So number 1, recognize the ethical issue. So this issue revolves around academic integrity. So plagiarism is unethical and unfair to honest students. So question to ask, is ignoring plagiarism fair to others? If I decide to leave it as a teacher, is it right? How will this decision affect students' learning and university standards? What if this became public knowledge? What if the public knows about this? So ethical conflict identified. So here, compassion for students versus upholding academic honesty. So what should I do? Should I forgive the student or should I take some measures? Number 2, gather facts. So as a teacher, I need to gather information. Number of students involved, how many students copied? I need to know the university policies. What does the university policy says on plagiarism? Plagiarism means copying. Whether this is the first time offense or repeated behavior. I also have to know these students, are they copying for the first time or it is their behavior? Impact on course grades and fairness to other students. I need to get information about what will be the impact of this cheating to their course grades? So the stakeholders, I need to identify all the stakeholders, the student, the professor, other classmates, university, and the academic repetition. So I need to gather all the facts. Then I need to evaluate alternatives. Okay, khalas, I have the information. What should I do? Number one, fail the students immediately. Like all of them, 0. And this is, remember last week we talked about the deontological theory, the duty based. So I need to because I am fair, I'm following the duty based. So follow the rules strictly. I'm not going to bend the rule. All of them are going to get 0. Option 2, I can allow resubmission with penalty and education on ethics. So I can allow them to resubmit. I can give them another chance. Okay? So they can resubmit, but there can be some deduction, 5 marks or 10 marks. So this is the ethical theory, the virtue ethics. So it promotes moral development and fairness. So, or I have the third option, to ignore, not to do anything. So the best option when I evaluate is what? Option 2 balances justice and compassion. So they resubmit and I deduct some marks. Then make the decision. Choose option 2. Allow students to redo the project with a reduced grade and require them to attend a workshop on academic ethics. So this decision has been made to uphold academic integrity while educating students. Then implement the decision now. Don't just make it, implement it. Inform students privately and explain the reason behind the decision. Tell the students you are copying, this is the school policy, and this is what I'm going to do as a teacher. Then you have to document the case and inform the academic head for transparency. Then schedule the ethics workshop to prevent recurrence. Then lastly, review whether students learn about integrity and improve their behavior. Assess if similar incidents decrease in the future. Reflect personally as a professor. Did my decision promote fairness and responsibility? So this is an example of the 6 step. And you can do this when you are making any decision, even in your business. When you are making any decision, you can easily do what? You can easily follow these steps. So number 1, recognize the issue. Number 2, gather facts, evaluate alternatives, make decisions, implement and reflect. So this is the first part of our lesson. And it was about ethical decision making. So after the break, we shall talk more. We only have 1 minute remaining. So there are many factors that influence ethical decision making. So sometimes there are individual factors. So it depends. There are some people, their tarbiyah, they were raised in a good Islamic family. So they always tell the truth. Why? Because their family, the mother, the father, you know. So sometimes it is all about the education. The education you got, mashallah, you went to madrasa, so your background is very good, so you can make good decision. Then organizational factors.